Exactly.
Okay, good morning, everyone. This is Neil Bronstein. We're starting DRC for February 24th. The first item up is Mizell property, a administrative subdivision plan in Up County. Take it away.
The lead packager for this is Jonathan Casey, and he's online today. I've brought up the picture here for us. This is just kind of the best overall shot I could get. And really, this is your meeting, so unless Jonathan has anything, it's up to you guys.
I think with Jonathan have anything?
I do not.
I have some things. I guess I'll wait for Jonathan for a minute because he had a comment in regarding shared use drive and potential right of way on the adjacent property. And so I want to talk about that for a second on here. I guess the big items are to get past the environmental that we have the comments on. And the owners, Jim and Madhu Mazel are also on the line. They are the property owners looking to relocate to this property, this farm. And we have a few items, as you guys know, really unique property in that it is, you can't get any closer to Frederick County without being in Frederick County. Access easement is from Frederick County. We also have a pipe stem that is Montgomery County. Property owners do want to have the Montgomery County address. We are proposing the pipe stem, as you see on the plans. There was a handful of comments, I guess, Marco, to go over and kind of address as best as we can today. And then if we need to meet afterward or set up another meeting, that'd be great. I think I have it distilled down to maybe two or three comments on there, two or three big picture comments. One of them being the access easement from Frederick County that is currently used for the property. And then the area that we were proposing to carve out of the conservation easement for a future potential ADU. So those two items, I guess, can we go to the forest conservation plan? Maybe is the best way to go on this. Yeah, no problem. And I guess just while the plans are being pulled up, it might be sheet 3, if I had to guess on there. Sheet 4 then. No. I thought I had an overall in there that I wanted to use, but it's such a big property.
Right here. So that looks.
Yeah, maybe. What we're looking at, it looks like as best that we can tell that there's not a problem with using the pipe stem as we have, but that the concern comes in with on the top north corner of the property, the access easement and forest, and potentially reforesting or putting that into an easement area. Is that?
Well, at this point, there was something to this effect in the comments. It wasn't clear which of the two or potentially both would be supported. There's just not enough information provided yet.
Okay.
Ideally, there'd be one. Potentially, you could justify two, but you would need to.
We don't have a problem with the one that we have shown, which would be the pipe stem coming off of Lewisdale Road. As we have shown, we're not proposing access from the easement from Frederick County.
Would you, so you're saying you'd be willing to close that off? And
if it would allow us to move forward, the owners would be willing to close that off. We spoke yesterday and they're fine with foresting that area, foresting the stream buffer that's on Montgomery County property. That's not a concern. We can definitely close that off. I guess that's one of the big comments that we have to work through or get some feedback from you. And then the second comment is with on sheet 2.6. we've been working on this property for, it seems like forever. Um, Before, before the Mazels bought this property, there was actually some testing, there was septic testing that was done. We don't know why, but the testing was done and approved in the woods with the proposed house. We went last year and basically delayed the entire project 1 year and did all new septic testing out in the farm field to see if we could relocate the house that we have shown on sheet 2.5 out in the field area, with the idea that they could potentially do some sort of an ADU or something in that little area that the approved septic in the woods is already there for. So I guess that's our second discussion point, if something like that would be supported, or if that would have to be completely abandoned. Our understanding is, and Jim and Madhu maybe will speak to this a little bit more, but there is a little bit of a dirt path and remnants of a block, something back in the woods that they believe maybe was a house a long time ago, maybe was something. So they wanted to potentially just have an ADU back there. I think that we could maybe discuss that further. We just did not want to add forest easement in that area if we could potentially carve out where that septic is approved.
So that's an area of high priority forest,
Right.
which requires a series of legal findings to be made that all planning and zoning options have been considered
Yeah.
before the removal of the forest. And I don't think actually that that's something you could say. So what other options have been explored?
Septic testing for the over where the house is. I don't know. We were talking about potentially putting something out in the field area. We can definitely go back and review that again. This was their ideal condition that they wanted.
I hear that,
Yeah.
but in this case, in particular, because this is FID's habitat that you'll
Yes.
essentially be
Okay.
toasting.
You don't think, basically you're saying that it would not be supported by staff?
I think you would have to, there would be an awful lot of work you'd have to do for us to support that kind of forest clearing.
Okay. Jim and Maddie, do you guys want to add anything to that? Do you have anything else, or would we like to just kind of digest that?
Hi, this is Jim. Yeah, so in that area, there is a dirt road that already exists, and there's also remnants of an existing structure there. So we were hoping just to utilize the area that's already was used from some other purpose in that wooded area. And we were thinking that we would, if we did put an ADU back there, it would be a fairly small footprint. The ADU, we're thinking would be a footprint of no more than 25 by 25 feet, or about 600 square feet. And since it was already used for some other purpose back there, we were just want to reuse that area, and that's really what we were hoping to do.
So the plans don't really exactly show that.
Right.
From the plans, it looks like a lot of forest clearing for not only the ADU, but the associated septic. And then the backup septic would also have to be unprotected as well.
Correct. So there would be at a minimum 10,000 square feet that we would not be able to put into forest easement just due to the septic. Also, the wells are located back there.
Right.
So we'd have to keep that area open as well. Or not, it could stay forest, but obviously would not be in long-term protection. So it's a little bit more than just the house itself. There would be additional area that could not be preserved.
Yeah, for the high priority forest, the variance trees and the FID's habitat, don't see right now how that could be supported, but you're welcome to, put something together for further consideration.
Yeah, I just also want to add that we would be certainly willing to allocate a lot more area of the cleared area as forest conservation, if that helps, because there is a lot of area, I think about 18 acres is cleared land, and we would want to plant trees in much of that area.
Right, but the point is to save forest, not clear forest and plant it because it takes so long. And particularly when you're talking about FID's habitat, that's tough to get back. I think this would be a very difficult case. I think you'd have to look at, clearly you've got other places that perk, but clearing forest to put an ADU in, particularly when it's legally a high priority for retention with those legal findings to be made, will be extremely difficult.
We talk septic just for a moment.
Sure.
So how much testing did you do aside from, I didn't see the results on the plan.
Yeah.
But you're showing, obviously it's Jonathan Casey in person now. The area that you're showing up to the north, is that the only area you did testing, or are there other suitable areas?
We tested 4 different areas in the farm field and only got 1 to work. And I don't know, again, the testing that was done in the woods, we don't know why it was done where it was done before the Manzels bought the property, but they tested and then got it to perk and sold the property as perked land. We went back and reevaluated the whole situation and said, let's try to do, if we could relocate some of this. So that's where we are. But all the testing occurred on the hillside, kind of in the middle of the drawing where the house is, and then on the one other ridge towards the wooded area. But we struggled with septic areas. I think we're testing 17,000 square foot areas and not getting a lot to work. So that's, again, this occurred over a year's period of time. So we have basically 2 approved septic fields right now, 1 in the woods, 1 in the open field area. So we can maybe discuss this a little bit more, Jim and Madhu, what maybe an approach would be.
Okay, that works.
Figure that out. So we'll leave that on the table. We'll talk about that and try to figure out what to do. I think that leaves us with, again, the one entrance. We would like to retain the entrance that we are showing on the pipe stem. So that brings up a couple of items that I'm trying to work through. We will set up the meeting with Rustic Roads and talk with them. I think, Jonathan, you had a comment on there about possibly doing a shared driveway.
Yeah, there's something on the adjacent plat that showed it was the access for this property here, kind of stubs. Or sorry, this one stubs here. This one goes all the way to the road. But then it shows on the plat like a future 60-foot right of way.
I don't know if that was back like in the 80s when they were maybe looking at doing a bigger subdivision is what I'm guessing on that. I don't know that we could go and put the driveway on the neighbor's property to widen that, because they are, I believe their driveway is 19 feet, 20 feet from our driveway as we have it shown right now. So we'd have to somehow do the driveway on their property.
So
you're
talking about you would have to expand the driveway?
Well, we'd have to completely move the driveway off of their property and then put it onto the neighbor's property. as a shared 20-foot wide driveway. So we really would prefer not to do that. We are straightening out quite a few driveways at the entrances. It seems like everyone's driveway is on everyone's property when you look up at the front of it. I think some of the circle driveways actually extend onto this property. That is why we're showing it 20 feet wide up in the front for fire code requirements versus going to the neighbors and telling them to please remove all their driveways off of this property. So we'd like to keep that hopefully as clean as possible on here with a single driveway going back to this property.
Okay. Yeah, to be honest, where the driveways are, it wasn't really clear on the plan.
Yeah.
That's why I requested like an inset or something.
Yeah, we can definitely put that on there. The entrance is, again, circle driveways, horseshoe driveways, seems like everything goes onto this property. So we're trying to clean that up without upsetting all the neighbors is what we're trying to do. That then brings up, we had one other question on here, and Marie is on the call right now. And what I'm still, Marie, what I'm still getting turned around on this particular property that we are dealing with is when I know it's been a long time since we talked to you originally on this property because we were ready for, I think we were ready for approval before we decided to go back to more testing on the property. When we did that, the code requirement changed. That requires now a cistern on the property instead of the easement.
Correct. As of December 24, easements are not acceptable to actual water supply installation.
So I guess I want to go back to this for one second, not to debate it, but what I'm trying to figure out is in the code that was written, it says that if an acceptable water supply does not exist at the time of subdivision of any new residential development or redevelopment comprised of more than one or two family dwellings. We're one. So I guess I want to go back and reiterate that we're not two dwellings. So does that really apply to this project? This is one parcel that we're basically just converting to one lot so that they can build a house. So it's a little bit unique.
Not to muddy the waters, but also if you continue with the ADU, does that further?
Well, that would be right. That'd be another question because from what I'm understanding with these cisterns there, we went from an easement to $130,000 expense for one house. So I just want to kind of bring that up one more time with just so that I clearly understand where this is coming from. And does it really? Yeah.
If you have an existing parcel and at some point in its history, it could have had a single family unit on it prior to 2010. So that'll be up to you to look up the history on this property and send that to me. So if it at some point in history could have had a unit on it, and now you are trying to put that unit on it. So you are not moving property lines, you are not changing the original intent of the community subdevelopment, then yes, you are essentially falling under the hazard and risk assessment that was done at the time the parcel was created. If you meet all of that, then you are not subject to current code review. I did not see that documented in the submittal, so we can talk offline. But if that's the case, then yes, we can absolutely work with that.
Okay. So
If it was a buildable lot.
prior to 2010.
Again, I can't say buildable lot because it wasn't a lot, but if it was a piece of land that was buildable,
Sorry, buildable
at some
property.
point,
Right.
but there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
The only possible issue with that is there was a sliver that was I think the Wolf property was carved off this at some point. I don't remember the date, but that could change.
So that would be something, again, if it was done prior to 2010, you're still good, but we need to look at all that.
Okay. All right, we
Okay.
will take a look. It's worth us investigating just because that.
Absolutely,
concern, I
definitely.
mean, again, it's just such a big expense for one house. So I wanted to just ask that question one more time.
Yeah, so if you're not creating a new buildable lot, and the way that's written is to catch basically, so if I have one piece of property that I'm now creating two, now you fall under the water supply requirements. So it may sound like, you may think you're only creating one, but you're actually creating two out of one. So that's, if that's not the case here, then yeah, we can work with that.
We're definitely not creating 2 out of 1. I think that's where I'm getting
It's
confused.
the timing.
Just the timing is what, I just need to go back to the timing.
Okay, cool,
Okay.
let's talk.
Got
Thanks.
it. All right. I think that covers us for this. Again, I think the big items are the forest. Does it look like that we could potentially use this entrance, Marco, and close off access to from Frederick County? So when we originally looked at this, it was before environmental got shifted around. And I did reach out to the area at the time, the Up County, and talked about balancing the stream valley buffer impact versus clearing for the pipe stem, and determined that we were going to pursue the pipe stem and keep the stream valley buffer unimpacted. Is what we're trying to do, not pave that stream valley buffer. So that was our reasoning for that. We thought the lesser of the two evils would be that entrance as we have it shown.
Yeah, that may be the case, but per the comments though, it would be helpful to explore using, sharing a driveway with a neighbor if possible. So I know that adds, a layer of negotiations, but there could be, considerable, expense savings because you have to, pave a 20-foot wide.
I'm sorry, could I jump in real quick? If you combine a driveway that was not shared before and you make it shared now, for the extent that it's shared, it will have to meet fire department access regardless of age of the piece of property. Just adding that in there.
Yeah.
Which means tertiary roadway depth standards. And that's up to the point where it's shared. And then once after that. So we really want to see a detail. I don't recall if you should show the detail of that area. Did you look at the site distance requirements?
Yes, we did actually we got a comment back on that. While we were doing our septic testing, our surveyor retired. So
Okay.
we've had a good time on this project. So we do have a new surveyor that's going to check the site distance for us. I believe it was the vertical distance that we got a comment on, if I remember correctly. It was not the horizontal distance. We didn't have a problem with that.
Make sure the vertical distance, and then
Yeah.
if any of those don't, like, so if they add on their property to any of those existing and they don't meet site distance, they can't use it. Those can remain, but they can't use it. So they'll need to find a place where they can meet site distance requirements.
Okay.
Something I think would be worth looking into because the pipe stem is, except for the front, it would be, entirely forest clearing and clearing of various trees, and you're on the highly erodible soils. If you could work with, some of the neighbors' driveway, that would be helpful.
Yeah, what would you want to see that we looked at that? What would we need to provide to you? Your word that you,
I don't know, I suppose just you could, in your updated statement justifications, you could explain what steps you
Okay.
took and how it panned out.
okay. All right, we can talk about that too.
Or yeah, it may be that there'd be a conflict.
Yeah. Can I ask one just really random question? Marie, are you still on?
That's a random question, yes.
Well, that's not my question. I'll just check it. If, I'm just gonna throw this out there. I don't know. This is just something to ask, and I don't know if it could be explored, but if we somehow looked at taking that driveway from Frederick County and we extended that driveway right now to the property line, would you then not be involved, or does that just add a whole different level of complexity because we're coming in from Frederick County?
So it's a Montgomery County address, you just said, right?
It is. But it
which
will
means
be,
your primary response is going to come from Montgomery County because it'll be in our dispatch system as a Montgomery County address. So your first due is going
Yeah.
to be us, which means that driveway apron should meet our requirements,
even if it's in even if it's in Frederick County.
even if it is because we're serving a Montgomery County address.
Okay, so we would not be able to get away from a cistern.
Oh, geez. Well, I thought you told me you didn't need to do a cistern because this property existed.
Well, I'm
prior
just trying to
to-
think if I can eliminate the debate altogether. But I was just curious, I have not run into a case where we would access a property from Frederick County and how that would impact all of the other reviews.
Yeah, no, I had a
Now-
commercial site years ago that had this exact condition.
Okay.
And Frederick County deferred to us.
Okay, so it really would not, it wouldn't provide any benefit to the property owners if we did decide to go that way. Okay. All right, that kind of answers that question. I think that covers us. Jim or Madhu, do you guys have any other questions at the minute?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, as far as timing on this, it sounds like we have quite a bit to do before we can get to solve this driveway versus the ADU versus the forest and all that. Do we just kind of keep going with this? I forget if we have the timing or because this is this is an admin, so I'll never. Okay.
Plan on submitting,
So we're gonna have to go in probably with a pretty lengthy request to start, just to get this driveway
we'll do an extension straight to the board.
straight.
that
I think we're gonna have to, because I don't want to burn through one of them at 30 days. Because I have a feeling we might need the other two. So let's go straight. We will talk about that. And Jim and Madhu, we'll talk about extension requests offline on this. Okay.
Okay.
Again, this was admin, this was preliminary, but it's not. Okay. All right, I think that's all that we have. I think we have enough. This one, so, all right, thank you, guys.
This is item number 2 for DRC, Miles Coppola, site plan in Up County. Josh, go ahead.
Good morning, all. Josh Penn. I'm the packager for the site plan for Myos Coppola Phase 2. I assume you got all the comments and everything. I think some of the major concerns that we're looking at right now are the changes from the preliminary plan to the site plan, especially in regards to right-of-way usage, grading, and retaining walls. So I'd like to discuss that with all you today. But like this is your meeting, so we are here for your questions and we'll hopefully have answers.
Great, great. Thank you so much. Thank you for the space. Thank you for the comments. We have reviewed them. I think a lot of them we'll be able to get through very quickly. A couple of points of information. The SHA comments that were submitted through e-plans are actually the access permit comments for the CRT, so they're not about this portion of the project. So I don't know if that, doesn't need to be part of anything. That's just the administrative process. We're going to get the approval of the CRT. We also saw a lot of comments about regarding preliminary plan triggers that are not necessarily associated with the site plan, but we do want to touch base on that. And then the retaining walls did change from the very original preliminary plan from years ago and a different applicant. They do match the retaining walls from our current preliminary plan. And I do want to say that we did reduce the length and heights from the original applicant's preliminary plan. But we can rework some grading to see what we were trying to optimize is minimize the retaining walls and try to have the site fit more organically into its setting, because before it was just raised up considerably. So we can definitely look at locations of concerns and see if we can minimize and address the particular issues. We also have a couple of comments that I think we may be able to address that we would love to put on the table at this time. But we did want to confirm that we need the interpretation of the fire access requirements, which it was what we had kept from doing, but I think it will address many concerns of our plaza area that's also doubling as fire access. So with that, again, thank you for the comments. None of them seem to be things that we won't be able to address. But I do believe the big one, the Redgrave improvements, for some reason, the limits of disturbance are shown, but the sidewalks are not. We're going to have those come back on. We are looking at ways of removing the fire access, perhaps by changing the biplexes that face there to face Street B at the westmost part of the site. The only concern there was the concentration of biplexes, which we, in traditional layouts, we were trying to have the more dense product be at the front of the community and kind of become less dense as it goes into the community. But understanding, again, the concern, we can continue to have a dialogue perhaps with the different agencies. Again, the biggest question we have on some of the comments are if we are talking about preliminary plan condition 26, for example, that is a requirement of a building permit. We are not showing any of that on this submittal because, for example, the traffic light at the intersection of 355 and the secondary access road, there's a warrant study. So we can actually put a note that says per condition 26, I believe E, a warrant study will be needed later. Is that what we're looking for when we get comments like that?
No. From DOT, you need to address all the comments. And so we need to ensure that that traffic signal is operational when it's needed and required to be installed. So we need that information now. I will say also, there was a preliminary plan amendment that went forward And DOT only addressed the other section of this development. This development did not get any approval on this particular section of development.
So to clear things up real quick, there's one certified preliminary plan and it has an A amendment and B amendment. The A amendment and the B amendment to the preliminary plan did not change anything, retaining wall or otherwise, on this section. So the retaining walls that are shown on this thing are much longer and much higher than shown on the certified set.
Okay. In the right of way, some of
In the
them
right of
are
way.
correct, but overall, the retaining walls in the site are much lower.
You'll see one of my comments are to provide a retaining wall exhibit, including dimensions of the walls, top of wall, bottom of wall. We didn't have enough information to go with it, but just from looking at the plans, comparing the certified preliminary set to the site plan that we have in front of us, that is not what it looks like.
Okay,
Overall.
we'll go. Okay, not in, so you're talking not about the B amendment, but the original certified preliminary
Well,
plan.
the A amendment and the B amendment did not change any of this. The O amendment, which was the certified set, locked in all the grading and everything else that we're looking at. But that hasn't changed as part of the A amendment or the B amendment, which were the only two amendments for this plan.
Okay,
So this is
we'll review the application. I'm pretty sure we did change the grading. That was one of the intent
We did
items.
not- DOT did not approve any changes in the preliminary plan amendments to this particular section of the development.
Understood. And actually, now that you mentioned that, Rebecca, I don't see any DOT comments in our
This is
review
because it's a
comments.
site plan. And
Okay.
we work with DPS. DPS actually has the majority comments, but they coordinate with us.
Okay, so the DOT comments are coming through Sam
Yes.
Farhadi?
Yes, right away. Yeah, yes, as well. We,
Great.
any comment
Okay.
you see the right away comes from us, but in consultation with DOT.
Understood. Okay, thank you. That clarifies a lot because we weren't sure why we were getting some that seemed preliminary comments from right away and not DOT.
They
Okay.
ensure our comments are addressed.
Understood. Understood. So we can go through all of these and we will probably set up meetings to go over them separately. We had we had requested a meeting because we understood we didn't have a preliminary plan approval from DOT in this section. And we wanted to get in front of these items, but getting them right now is not an issue. We can get all of this addressed. The one element that we did want to discuss today is the radius. Well, we had a similar conversation on a different project. When we were discussing the findings of the other project with our engineering team here, we were made aware that there is a radius for, we were a little optimistic on the other project about the radius for fire access. But essentially, a 20-foot road intersecting a 20-foot road requires a 25-foot radius for fire access, and we can't reduce it from there, is our understanding. So that is something that we would love to discuss with all the agencies present and to see if we can come up with something that can satisfy everybody's needs.
Marie, that's a question we have for you.
That was an accurate statement at an intersection.
So you can't reduce it down to 15 or 20.
Not where I have 20 feet of pavement meeting 20 feet of pavement. No, there's no give.
And what about if they have like 21 feet of paving to 21?
Then the radius drops. So 21 to 21 would be a 24-foot radius.
And then what about 23 to 21?
Are you having fun yet? Hang on a second. I have
There's
a
actually-
calculator for that.
There's a table that was shared with us that we'll be
I
happy
know,
to
but there's
submit.
actually, she has a calculator that I
Okay.
was looking to
Yeah,
get.
that's 23 feet. So we're 23 feet of pavement meets 21 feet of pavement. Then intersection radius would need on both sides would need to be at least 23 feet. Do you want to throw some more pavement widths at me? I got the calculator up.
No, but can you get the calculator and send it to us? please?
Yeah, of course. By the way, I'm sure you have it at some point in your history, but I will be happily send it again. No problem.
Rebecca, would you want mountable curves that are tighter?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I just don't think I think that the maintenance, it's gonna be a headache for maintenance. I don't know how much, and that's one of the questions we can look at and see how much it actually reduces the crossing distance and how much it slows down. I thought you could do 15. That's what's in my neighborhood, so.
Yeah, that was what we were optimistic about, and that's what we had directed the team for this project. But when we saw the comments and then
That's
we had,
never been an option.
exactly, that was very clear to this team. So we
Yeah, the other
are,
issue I was gonna say in this was, that T intersection that you see it in the bypass, that has, over 25 feet, close to 30 or 35 feet, that needs to be worked on as well.
Well, that was one point, sorry, Ines, if I'm interjecting. One point I think we
Please go
did want to have a meeting about was that originally we were told to design that intersection to accommodate a WB 67. With this road classification sort of downgrade or reclassification, I'm not exactly sure what you're calling it. Can you guys specify what you would like this intersection designed to?
Yeah, I think, so that was one of the things we were trying to understand is what it was downgraded to. So it would be helpful if you just tell us, let us know, somebody can let me know what it was existing and then what it is. And we can take a look at that because we didn't like any of those. I don't think we liked them before. And so if we can avoid those large swooping.
Well, I don't believe you provided any truck turning templates, so we would need to see those. And I'm looking at the fire access plans and yeah, I mean, almost everything is a 30-foot radius. So the comment is to reduce it as much as possible. And if you need to accommodate larger vehicles, we need to see the truck turning templates to understand where those are occurring.
Agreed, but all I'm saying is we didn't want the WB 67s. We were told that they needed to be on this road. So if you guys don't plan on them being on this road, we
So
will
we-
certainly design to a smaller vehicle.
so Stephanie, let me just add a little bit of a little storytelling to that. So we understood that while this is no longer being considered the bypass road, in our submittal, because it hasn't been completely adopted, in our submittal, we still maintained what was previously approved in the preliminary plan for those turning areas. So we're happy to bring them down to a more, compatible to the actual intended use now. We know it will fit if it ever gets upgraded again in 25 years, but now, but we would love to build what makes sense. So we can continue again to have that dialogue with DOT and transportation. And come up with
We
the
need to be
public right
part of
away.
it as well, Ines. I mean, DPS right away takes the lead, so we need to be part of all the conversation about transportation. And the other thing I was gonna say was, we normally, when we design our roads, we design it per complete streets. And complete streets do not require there to be 67 or anything like that. In cases like that, most probably final rescue is the determining factor. So
Okay,
if you have to reduce the radius as much as possible, we want to see it done because my understanding is the speed limit on this road is 25 miles per hour. And with that much speed limit, if you have a large curb radius, that's going to encourage speeding. So we need
understood. Yeah, well, we're happy to build. We want the same thing. We want to slow down people going through the frontage of our property and the entrance to our property or to the homes we're building. Really, it won't be our property; it would be the homeowners. So I think we all want the same thing, and we'd love to build less pavement. So, and it also helps us with grading. So we'll definitely take a look at that. So should we set up a separate meeting with the three parties, transportation, DOT, and DPS right away?
Yeah, and you can work with either Richard Brockmeyer or Sam Farhadi and they'll
Great.
coordinate.
And could you
Wonderful.
include me as the packager and on any of the meetings so I can sit in?
Absolutely. And when I say we, Kyle, I meant you, if Kyle's present.
Yes, I'm in.
Great. The other element that we were thinking of addressing again is on fire access again. Marie and we haven't had a chance to discuss this with you because we came up with the alternative late yesterday. Was the Central Green has has townhouses facing it on one side, but not all those townhouses are 150 feet from the street, the front doors. They are all 150 feet from the alley. So we were not using the alley as the fire access for those units. We were providing a plaza like pavement. And that was going to be fire access only. There is um, a desire to not have that fire access. So for that, we did want to confirm that having 150 feet from the door to an accessible alley is okay. It doesn't need to be to a different street. And with that, we would move the biplex, the only biplexes that face that central green, which is to the right of the screen being shown right now, or to the right of the central green at the bottom of the screen that's being shared. Josh, if you can pan up.
Yep, try and hold on 1 second.
Okay, no worries. And I'm
I know
sorry,
what
I'm
you're talking
rushing.
about. So the 150 is to every front door from the same point on the alley. So that would work. Again, you cannot split access. So where the truck stops in the alley, if you can get 150 feet to every front door on each of those two townhouse sticks, that's fine. And then again, the biplexes have to meet 50, or you can shift the biplexes somewhere else.
Okay, yeah, we did not have it from the same point on the alley or we did have it
I
on
can,
both sides
I
of the.
can achieve the same point if we break the sticks up.
Great.
Okay.
There you go.
If we add another break, I can achieve 150 from the same point.
Can we achieve them from the ones that are going up and down as well?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, perfect. And so again, the change here, and I would love to get, and I'm trying to, I don't see who from staff is here, but I believe Roberto is present.
Yes.
So we would probably move that biplex that again is on the right of the green to fronting Street B. So Josh, do you mind panning down again, please?
Yep. Where are we going?
Street B.
So right there, right where it says Street B private, we would move the two sticks of townhouses that are facing Street B private. We would move those to the front the green, and we would make this the biplexes. So we would be moving these 10 townhouses to the green and moving 9 biplexes to here. Again, we were wanting to distribute the units kind of amongst the unit types all around. This puts a lot of biplexes in this area. I don't think that is an issue market wise. We were just trying to follow, again, the principles of trying to mix the unit types and kind of go into lesser density as you go out from the access to the community. So we should be able to address it, and we can have, again, separate meetings for that.
That works.
Inez, I was
Okay.
going to say, I really appreciate you looking at that central
Yes.
green and looking at ways to eliminate the fire department access on the central green. And yes, we had suggested to look at those biplexes and relocating them elsewhere. So we appreciate you looking at that as well. We had suggested potentially looking at private street C as the place where you have townhouses currently.
We
Sort of-
did that as well.
Did you look at that too?
Yes, we did, and we can present both studies. Stephanie did it. We end up two or three units short.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
So
'cause-
that's what, yeah, that was my first desire was there because it completely made sense to frame
Sure.
this area, but we ended up short. We can take another look at it. It was just, again, looking at the comment when we received it yesterday morning and trying to get an answer today to give staff comfort that we were addressing, because I think that this fire access, you're getting the comment from several agencies, so we wanted to say we have a way, we'll continue to look for a way that is, a happier result, that we can't lose units.
Yes, no, we appreciate you looking at it and we'll work with you to find a place to relocate those and to swap them
Great.
without losing any units. We understand that's really important.
Wonderful.
I like the idea that you have of having the biplexes sort of grouped together towards the top of the development. So that's something that I appreciate you also thinking about, as well as the grading on the site. So depending on how the units are laid out and whether you're taking advantage of the sort of to have a walkout basement scenario in the back. So at the bottom where you suggested private street B, that's towards the perimeter of the site. So that's where you have the most sort of grading, I'm assuming.
Actually,
And
that is the ones that are more difficult are towards the right, but we reduced all of that.
okay,
Towards this one, actually, if you believe it or not, these are actually uncut, which we're gonna raise now. But it's the ones on the right that have stormwater facilities backing onto it. Those are the ones towards the right of the site that had the big retaining walls that are now less than, I believe they're all less than 8 feet at the bottom of the hill.
okay, got it. So that was just the other consideration is when you look at the unit types to see which ones can take up grade the most, because that ties in
Yes.
also with the reducing the retaining walls, which is something that Josh was looking at closely.
Right. Well, let me explain. From the certified preliminary plan, we did have, if you look at the primary access road and the biplexes that face the primary access road, those are actually three-story fronts, four-story backs.
Right.
And
right, I
that's
saw
what
that.
that's how we achieved catching grade with the units. This was the most efficient way to unit to do it with.
Right.
All considering all of the fire access and constructability of everything.
So can you do the same thing on some of the other units on the perimeter of the property? Take up some
We
grade
act-
within units?
So we actually looking at, we really cannot do it for the front load garage units because of the distribution and how it would go to the back. The building that drop into the unit, because it's not the ones, the biplexes are an in-ground front, which is ideal, but when you have the front garage, you lose half of that footprint to the garage, and dropping that wall within the unit makes it incredibly expensive to build. And we're trying again to keep some affordability of the product with a slab on grade. But if you look at these slopes, they have barely any retaining wall. The retaining walls start at between the first and second stick of townhouses. And only go to the stream valley buffer, and then we have no retaining walls along the back of that slope. There used to be 20 and 30-foot retaining walls there with the certified plan. So we did take a very good look at grading, and we'll take a look at it again. With the stormwater planters in that back area, we are not able to do it without stormwater bioplanters. Again, something that the builder would love to do. We did see that comment from urban design. We would love to see that become a different type of bioretention area, but it's really not feasible given just the whole engineering of the site. We took, because we had the time while we were doing the CRT site plan, we really looked at what you're seeing on the site plan here to make sure that engineering wise, it did make sense and we weren't just proposing something quickly and then get stuck to get it approved for engineering permits. So we did try to get, to remove these four bio planters and make them by retention areas, but it's just not possible.
Okay, Inez, I'm sorry to cut us short here. It's almost time. Does anybody else have
Yes.
anything important they want to bring up before the end of the end of the DRC? No.
So okay.
So, do you have any closeout questions that you need answered or any scheduling follow-up kind of answers?
We will reach out to figure out all our roads, all our design comments and how we plan to address them. Josh, all your comments were pretty straightforward to make sure the plans made sense. Marie, you'll be seeing an update from us and we'll make sure that we're looking at everything the way it needs to be. My one question is we do have the comments that are really building permit triggers for the phasing. For example, condition 26 of the preliminary plan. To respond to those, we acknowledge it, but we will show you in the meetings and in separate conversations that we are progressing those items, so nobody's surprised later. But it doesn't necessarily need to be resolved to go to the planning board. Is that a good, an appropriate interpretation? Because
I think we're gonna have to have another conversation about that because a lot of the stuff that was triggered to building permit really has some significant impacts to the design and layout of the site plan and whether it meets the site plan findings and whether it's safe, adequate, and efficient. So if we need something
Okay.
now, even though the trigger was building permit, we will need it now because we can't make the site plan findings without some of those. So let's schedule a meeting on that also.
And by the way, we already have a lot of this information. We just need to update it to the site plan. So we'll start all those submittals as well. So understood and thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
You all.
It's administrative subdivision, Chevy Chase View in East County. Go ahead, Tamika.
So we have this 2-lot subdivision, pretty, I think, straightforward for the most part. We know that you're shifting the lot line. You saw our comments that were fairly limited, but we still have to go through all the findings for a preliminary plan. So our main comments for this one revolve around the potential for additional dedication and also addressing the frontage improvements. So we listed a couple of additional items that you'll have to provide to us, like the transportation adequacy form. We also would like to see the cross sections for Glenridge Street and Saw Road. And then we also had some comments about the prior approval, specifically with condition number 8, where it called out the addition of a sidewalk. So I will stop there, give you the floor, but if you could give us some additional information. It sounds like maybe with the condition of approval, we haven't tracked that well with what happened to it, but maybe you have some more information that you can share.
Yeah, is
with us on that.
is Nick the owner on this call? I don't see him.
Yes, I'm on the call.
I just want to make sure, Nick, you were on this call.
Yep.
We did go back through and look, I cannot, gonna have to talk with the previous builder on Glenridge about this sidewalk. I thought that the sidewalk was waived on Glenridge, but I don't know. I did not have a minute to go back through and find any of the approvals, and maybe Sam, you couldn't.
Yeah, we looked into it. We couldn't find either.
Well, the street doesn't have a sidewalk.
No, I understood. It was a condition of approval of the previous subdivision that a sidewalk was to be installed along Glenridge unless waived.
Along
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah, on Saw Road.
So apologize. Yes.
On Saul Road, the sidewalk's on the other side of the road.
Yeah, but the condition of approval previously was that it should be installed.
The conditions when Dan did the subdivision, Nick,
Right,
was that
yeah, I get that.
sidewalk was to be installed. I could not find that that was addressed previously, and the county is DPS is saying the same thing, that it's not, that they're asking how was that sidewalk not installed? We'll Nick, what I'm thinking we're going to have to do is circle back to Dan on that and talk to him for a few minutes, because we got the entrance permits, we got our driveways, so it would have come up in that review. So
Yeah, I mean, I checked with the plat reviewers for your information, Mike.
yeah,
And they did not see the amended TOT letter.
okay,
The original one didn't call for it. They deferred everything to the
okay.
town of, or village of Chevy Chase.
Yes, Chevy Chase View.
Right, that's why it wasn't.
Yeah.
So now we're gonna, I guess, gonna deal with that. now.
We're gonna have to put, if I'm reading this correctly, it looks like the big condition of the comments that we have is the potential for additional dedication based on the complete streets guidelines, which came in following the last subdivision that we did on this property. And that we would have to seek a waiver for that. I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out, because we can't dedicate, the houses are existing. That would put us, I believe, in violation of the setbacks.
I think you'll ask for the waiver from DPS later on, but we need to see the improvements shown on.
We would need to do the improvement plan and then get it waived and how we've
Yeah,
done.
but need to
previous
see the
sidewalks.
cross section
Oh,
during
okay.
this part of the approval process.
Okay,
If they install the sidewalk and it's on, like, you don't, like in this particular case, because there's existing homes, it could potentially, because it's an existing home, right?
correct.
Okay. And then there's those boxes, those squares up front.
Stormwater.
So if you, I mean, theoretically, you could, if you installed the sidewalk along your frontage and property, you could put it in easement, and DOT could accept that. And so they could connect it I would assume to Saul Road, like, is there? I mean, it looks like a good place to put a sidewalk, you think, to connect the two sidewalk, but.
Well, yeah, I mean, there isn't a sidewalk on that side of the street. So, I mean, I guess, are we talking about just putting a sidewalk just in front of, on this property line? Like
Along
within,
25.
Can we figure out why the other sidewalk?
No, because there's no sidewalk on this side, I think most probably grand waiver.
I mean, I'm always in favor of just putting a sidewalk and hopefully you get it, eventually get it, but.
And filing the
Yeah.
waiver, but just doing the design plans to show it and then providing an easement is what you're saying?
You can't provide an easement without a facility.
Yeah, we can do EPA.
Right, so you could
Right.
potentially, in this particular case, because it's an existing house and you have to plat the property, you could do an easement, you could build the sidewalk and put it in an easement. And then it potentially, depending on what happened with the project on the right side, they could get them to build that sidewalk and then it'd be, it's not, to an existing, any sidewalk is better and you gotta start somewhere. So that's my only point. I don't really have any say otherwise.
So
You always gotta start somewhere.
Rebecca, are you saying that the owners have the potential to install the sidewalk per the previous plan and then not have to deal with the complete streets or deal with both of them? Or did I just confuse things even more?
I'm a little confused.
Sorry, say that again?
So we have,
So in this particular case.
yes,
For this project, you could, so say there was a sidewalk on the rest of Salt Street, and
Yeah.
you're trying to connect it.
yes.
We would allow you to put it in a PIE if the facility was built.
Correct.
But,
You're not gonna record an easement with nothing in it.
right. The question is, do we want to ask them to build the sidewalk on the adjacent property where it was supposed to be built? And we don't know what happened with that.
Right.
So,
But I heard you saying a different question.
Well, I guess my question is if let's just say that they went out this afternoon and built the sidewalk. Okay, we're just for sake of argument, that sidewalk is existing there as of this afternoon or as of this morning, whatever. Would we still be getting the comments regarding the swale and the complete street? Because the complete streets came in after the last subdivision is what I'm saying. So we
Guess I don't understand what would be different. The swell is because it's an open section road. The sidewalk, I don't know,
Yeah.
was it previously approved as a 5-foot sidewalk?
Yes,
I see.
so it would not meet the today's.
I mean, if it was already there,
Yeah.
we would probably be fine with it staying as a 5-foot sidewalk, but
it doesn't look like you have much room to put a sidewalk
We
along.
don't, right, and I really don't want to go to the neighbor and ask them about putting a sidewalk in front of their house either.
I mean, the sidewalk, yeah, the whole street on that side, there is not a sidewalk. The sidewalk on Saul Road is on the opposite side of the street.
yeah,
Like,
the-
it's
understood
all
that
built.
the intent is to eventually have sidewalk on both sides of every road.
Yeah.
Um,
And you gotta start somewhere.
yeah, we have to start somewhere, and at a minimum, I think we need to have the dedication to not preclude the ability to have sidewalk in the future. So I think it needs to be shown on the plans. I think part of what Leah's comments were about is we don't have a cross section, so it's a little hard to understand.
We basically took our plans that we had and moved a lot line is what we were hoping that we could do with this. And then this came up. Nick, we're gonna have to go back to Dan and talk to him about what had occurred on this property and how we got to where we did. Was there an improvement plan for Salt Road that it wasn't the town?
The Salt Road is county maintained.
That is the county, okay, so
They
it's
would have
not,
to gone through the county to get that
That's-
removed. And we don't
I
have
mean,
any.
the one side of Saul is Chevy Chase View, the town of Chevy Chase View. The other side where the sidewalk is the town of Kensington.
We maintain Salt.
You maintain Saw. I feel like we had this discussion the last time we did the subdivision on this, and they got really confused on Saw Road.
And the
And
fact that there's a condition that we
Yeah.
don't know what happened to, I think that's what we're looking for.
we
And
need to
then what,
solve that is what we need to do.
or
And
try
then
and solve that.
Try and solve that, and then best case, we get this waived. Worst case, we try to figure out how to put the sidewalk in there, Nick. So I think we have just a little bit of homework, but I think that was, if I read this, I think that's really the concern right now is how we're gonna solve that sidewalk. Otherwise, it looks like everything else is just some forest worksheet and some minor things. So it's just solving that sidewalk issue. Nick, I think
Gotcha.
we're gonna have to have a call possibly with Dan to solve this, if we could maybe jump on that, but they're not saying that we have to do it. We just need to answer some questions about
Yep.
what was done previously. So,
I mean, is the worst case, I have to put a sidewalk in from corner to corner on the property?
potentially,
Yeah.
well, worst
okay.
case, you would also put it on the neighbor's property.
I,
Middle case is
It's
you put
just-
it on your dad's property.
Yeah, it's
Best
like
case,
these
we don't.
sidewalks. Yeah.
There's three
These
options.
sidewalk to nowhere.
There's three of them right now.
We understand that.
I think Chevy Chase View is doing a big push for sidewalks right now, is what I understand.
Maybe, I mean, like, if you guys do start this, then maybe then they'll finish the block. I mean, the block's not very long. It's only a few houses, so.
We will, we'll look into
I
it.
mean, everybody
Yeah.
should have sidewalk on both sides of the street.
Yeah. We'll look into it. But Nick, that was what I saw as the big concern on the comments. We didn't talk before these came out, but that's all that I saw.
Okay.
Is there, I think we're good otherwise. Okay. All right. Thank you for jumping on. Nick.
I have a question. Can I take those signs down yet? Or
We were just talking about that. They have to stay up until these plans basically are approved, unfortunately.
Okay.
I think we had one
I'm sorry.
comment that wasn't able to make it into
Yes.
E-plans.
Yeah, it does not
Asking
exist.
The address numbers on the plan. Looks like on the.
What is it? The address is?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
remind you that I don't think the numbers were in the footprint for the houses on your site
Okay.
plan.
We can add that in. That's not a problem. Yeah. Okay, you're
Okay.
just saying that's not on there. Yeah, we'll add
Yeah, I
the,
was just looking at it and I noticed that because I wanted to pull up the map. That's all. Thank you.
sure, address numbers. We'll get those on the plan. No problem.
Okay,
Okay.
sounds good.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Thanks, Nick.
Okay, this is the Friends House Retirement Community Special Exception Amendment in East County. Go ahead, Tamika.
Good morning. My name is Tamika Graham. I'm with East County, and I will quickly go through some of our major comments before I turn the floor over to you. First off, I appreciate the statement of justification and laying out the history of the project. It's quite lengthy, and also explaining how we got here and what things have changed in the market, so helping us to understand, the proposal. I'll just start with the major red flag item, which you've sure gathered from the comments and from multiple agency perspectives, is the shift from providing the second access point off of Norwood Road into the internal and as an internal access point. As you're showing it through the Stream Valley buffer, we won't be able to support it because of 22A, Chapter 22A requirements. So I'll just quickly point out that from an environmental perspective, in order to get this proposal moving forward, we would need to see some very clear evidence that what you're proposing is the only thing that could potentially happen. We would need to see that your proposal to the existing forest conservation easements into the Stream Valley buffer are totally unavoidable. We haven't seen that in the current submission. We also need to see the impacts minimized to the greatest extent feasible. Then, if we find that the encroachment is unavoidable, we would need to see a host of additional information. So we've listed out road design. We need to see how you're going to minimize forest removal, how you're going to minimize impacts to the floodplain and to the Stream Valley buffer. Also, mitigation has to be provided. I don't think that was clearly laid out, again, for the approval. And our team has also noted some existing forest conservation compliance issues. So a little bit separate, but also tied to this approval. I know that we need to circle back here, but before I turn over the floor to you, I'm just going to point out a couple of other things. So that's the road from the environmental perspective, and then from the transportation perspective, again, just a list of things that we need to complete our review. The site distance analysis, although you've explained how we got here, we don't have any concurrence letter or anything from MCDOT, so we want to see that. We also need the TAF. And then also, again, if the road will become internal, we'd also like to see it, the width reduced. Just a couple of quick site level details help make our findings. A couple of reviewers flagged sort of an issue with the phasing. I guess I would say that we would need it to be shown. We would need a better clarity on the phasing and to show it graphically. So if you could show a phase line, if you could show what's the existing conditions and also show what was approved and then what you're proposing. So we did provide a link to you. You can treat it how you might treat a plan amendment, for example, like with the red lines. That would be really helpful. We can just see all the changes in the phasing lines on one sheet. We also provided an attachment for architecturals and massing. So when we have that information, we look forward to giving you more feedback on that. And then also the building orientation, sort of backing up to the rest of the development as opposed to being a part of it. Maybe you can talk a little bit more about the orientation. And then also we had some concerns about the way that the garage is prominent as you come into the roadway. And this is sort of a design issue if the road will remain internal to the property. But I think those are our key things, but we can turn it over to you. I'm happy to talk more about the environmental aspects of the project.
Great. Okay. Thank you for the summary. And thank you everyone for the review comments. We really appreciate it. Liz Rogers, Claire Shirley, I know all you. I also have with me Phil Burkholder, who's the CEO of Friends House, Pat LeVay with MHG, and then we have a number of our team members that have joined virtually online as well. So we're excited to be moving forward with this major modification of the Forest Conservation Plan to allow for the next phase of the build out of the Friends House campus that's long been envisioned. This amendment seeks to not increase the number of units obviously approved for the overall development, but kind of reallocate them. We keep saying it's like moving the chairs on the deck within the site and within the phasing to allow Friends House to better respond to kind of the market demands now and get the next phase off the ground. We've done a lot of voluntary engagement with the community, or Friends House has, Phil has. So I saw that as a comment with DRC. We're happy to provide kind of a summary. It's obviously ongoing, so there's even more, meetings in the works, but happy to provide a summary so that's clear for the record, all of the meetings and outreach that he's had and will continue to have. There was a number of comments we saw about cleanups and additional information, like you mentioned, on like the phasing or the red line, so we can address that with the resubmission. May need to circle back on the phasing just to get clarity of what you were looking for graphically on that, only because we chose to do it with the table as opposed to on the plans, because the footprints of those buildings may not dramatically change. As you saw, we took a couple units from different buildings, and so the units may become larger and the footprints not actually change for those buildings. But we can maybe circle back offline on kind of how best to describe that graphically. A few kind of smaller items. We saw there was a comment about the trail around the building and whether that was also planned to be used not only just for fire access, but also for kind of a residential amenity, which it is. So appreciate the comment about enhancing that further with landscaping and benches, which is something we can address with our resubmission. We also saw the request for additional information about building architecture, which will provide, and I know you mentioned it in your summary, I think there is a balance, right? The main entrance, is off of kind of in more facing away from the main campus, I'll say. But there's another secondary entrance kind of that's facing and embracing the campus. So it's kind of like two fronts. We've purposely kind of designed that so that they don't necessarily compete, but they both kind of serve that same function of both having a main entrance, but also embracing the rest of the campus, both through the architecture and the plaza. And I think we just need to provide some more details with the resubmission so that you can see that and understand our intent better. And we can also provide narrative for that and then work with you all on comments you may have once you have a chance to review it. The TAF, we can make sure that's included with the formal plans online, but that had been submitted and signed back in December. So we'll make sure it's part of the record that's online. So a number of the comments we think will need follow-up meetings, but there was a few we did want to talk about today. I'll start with kind of the smaller ones, and then we'll take the roadway at the end. There was a comment regarding screening and enhanced screening buffers, and there was a section, a reference to the current code requirements. Just a point of clarification, obviously, we're seeking to be grandfathered under the old code. So that's the prescriptive requirements of that screening section obviously don't apply, but Friends House is very mindful of the screening and providing kind of enhanced screening to the surrounding community. Just wanted clarity on where, I think the specific comment was about understory trees and where on the plan staff was seeking for us to provide that additional screening. I assume it was just around the parking perimeter, kind of to, plan
To the east.
to the east, but around the parking portion.
Yes.
Okay. There was also a comment about additional details on the trash enclosure. We're actually proposing to provide trash internal to the garage, so there's not going to be like an external enclosure. And we can provide additional, information about how that's going to be accommodated with the resubmission. I just want to make sure there was nothing confusing on the plan that someone was seeing that was making it look like we were providing it outside, or if it was just a request for kind of information on how trash was being handled.
Just clarification.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there was a footnote or somewhere along the way about the trash, which is where that goes to reference.
It might have been, I think, I'm remembering now, I think there was a footnote from the original special exception that addressed screening and enclosures, and maybe that's just a carryover.
Yeah, just came from the footnote, yeah. Thank you, Pat.
Okay. And then, I guess we can move on to the roadway connection. I was gonna provide a little bit of background. A number of you know, we've obviously met with many people on the roadway connection to begin with. We'll make sure that everything that's in the formal kind of record with these plans kind of reflects everything that we've shared previously with staff on that. But just as a high level kind of background, for the site distance, Friend's House did closely evaluate that site distance where the access was originally proposed off of Norwood Road to this North Forest addition. Site distance wasn't met when you accounted for the actual observed speeds or the speed study done. We did reevaluate that site distance, see if there was anywhere along the North Forest frontage where site distance could be met. And as we talked about previously, there was one spot where you could technically meet the 550 feet of site distance that's required, but there was no margin of error. And then when you combine that with the road profiles, which we had shared with both DOT and Park and Planning staff, there was I would say that there was a kind of an acknowledgement, at least in those early meetings, that I guess the applicant's perspective that wasn't safe because of the vertical profiles of the road and then being no margin of error, providing a full movement access along that frontage would not be safe. We had originally proposed continuing to provide a right in, right out access there. And I know DOT had raised concerns with that in terms of people may disobey kind of those restrictions. So that's why the proposal we've submitted today sought to eliminate all access off of Norwood and have this internal roadway connection. That internal roadway connection's gone through several different iterations as we've kind of worked with staff kind of prior to filing the special exception modification. We've really been mindful of trying to minimize those environmental impacts with where the bridge, that internal roadway connection, is both located and how it's designed. So the new location that we're proposing, which is actually a little bit further south from Norwood, was to minimize overall loss of forest conservation easement area where we had previously proposed it closer up to Norwood Road. There was a small sliver that was left that then didn't count towards kind of the widths required for forest conservation. And so it resulted in a greater net loss. Whereas when we moved it south, it allowed us to keep that forest conservation up along Norwood and minimize overall loss. The other things that we have done, and we can kind of graphically hopefully show this better with the resubmission, is we've consolidated some of the utility connections that were already planned for any development that would occur on the North Forest addition. We've kind of consolidated those with the roadway so that there's a smaller net increase in terms of impact to the forest than just the bridge and the utility connections being separate. And then in terms of the span of the bridge, we've also really worked on that and kind of with the revised design doubled the bridge span to provide, and also provided an open bottom, which would really reduce the horizontal impacts to the stream. There was two specific comments related to the bridge. So all about, I think we can provide the site distance, we can provide the road profiles, we can make sure all that's clearly in the record, in addition to obviously the narrative that had described it. There was two specific comments. I'm gonna let Len talk in a moment because he can do a better job than I can on the second. The first was the request to reduce the overall width of that bridge. So currently the vehicular portion of the bridge was proposed to be 24 feet wide. And I think there was a recommendation to reduce the vehicular portion to 20 or 21 feet, which I think we can accommodate. I just want to make sure it's clear that there is a pedestrian component outside of that vehicular. So the overall bridge would still be wider than the 20 or 21 feet. So we think that pedestrian connection is really important. But we could reduce a couple feet on the vehicular component. But the 90-degree connection, I think there was a request for kind of the realignment and creating a 90-degree connection with the bridge was something that was problematic. And Lynn, maybe you can provide kind of a high level discussion on that.
Sure. So as Liz mentioned, and she actually took a lot of my thunder here with the minimization of the impact there. So right now, the main movement through the Friends House campus is plan west to plan south. It comes around the turn. The full movement and the main movement now and this will be across the bridge and into the parking garage, because that is where the majority of the parking spaces are, and where the residents will be parking that live there. We did look at the horizontal. There was another comment about horizontal geometry. This is a reverse curve. It does meet the Astro Green Book for design standards, but that's why we cannot accommodate a 90-degree to the existing roadway to the west. and kind of why the movement is straight through to the parking garage there. We do provide the 90-degree movement to the northern parking area where the main door will be. And then we're stuck with the existing geometry on the western connection where we have the proposed crosswalk right now. That geometry is set. So to maintain the main movement through there, that was the geometry that we had to land on. And as Liz said, we actually had to move. We did have a closer to a 90-degree connection to the existing curvature of the road. However, to maintain the forest conservation easement area, that all had to be pushed down. So it kind of, some of that dictated the alignment of the roadway to accommodate the reduction in forest conservation impact.
This is Rebecca. Why didn't you just move the access point to the existing, so we're talking about the bridge or whatever, and on the left side of it, why didn't it just come down further south and hit the road further south to make that T intersection?
Good question. Right now, there's a one-way movement. So it would require adjusting some more internal roadways to accommodate a two-way movement there south of that proposed crosswalk. And we're also mindful of being able to get the swing of fire truck hard to the right and then make an immediate left-hand turn as well. Again, it's something we can take a look at, but we thought this was the best from a main movement and in providing emergency vehicle access over there.
In your next submission, could you please provide the analysis for these check movements? We did not see that in the previous submission, so any more information would be greatly appreciated because as the plans are currently laid out, it doesn't provide as wide a picture into the turning movements and the necessity for that geometry with that primary access on the west campus. So again, the more information we receive, the better we will be able to understand what the logic was, and also the maneuverability of the area as well.
Yeah, understood. We did provide those, I believe, to the fire, but we can make that part of the record with the main submission as well.
Thank you.
The fire access plan was included with the submission. I guess the question would be, I mean, Carlos, the biggest movements are going to be the fire truck, and that'd be the fire access diagram. I guess the question would be, is there something else you're looking for to show just more general movements? Like we talked yesterday about stop control, where that would be installed, like an exhibit maybe that shows how the regular pedestrian or regular vehicle.
Like a circulation analysis would be very helpful, like a basic, just to give a good idea of how traffic would work internally, like traditional, normal internal circulation.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's passenger vehicles is what you're looking for with that?
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, you would want to see the pedestrians as well. So if you're having
You can do an exhibit with both.
Yeah. Okay.
The only other thing I say is you were talking about right in, right out. That doesn't work when you have the issue is looking to the left. So if you can't see to the left, you can't, a right in, right out restriction doesn't work.
It's looking right.
I thought the restriction was is the issue. I thought the issue was looking to the left.
It's looking to the right.
It's to the right.
Yeah,
because
the
of that
hill,
curve in the hill.
northeast on the page, there's like a crest in the road.
Okay.
I would just like to reiterate that all of that needs to be documented just very clearly to make the legal finding that this is the only possible alternative for access to this portion of the site. So, not having that with the first submission kind of pushes you back, right? So in terms of, first off, saying yes, that there is no way to access this portion of the site, independent of what was provided. Let's say you came in with the previous footprint, but to be able to get to the point to say legally that there are no planning and zoning options available for access to this portion of the property. And then secondly, to go through this is the location that the bridge must go. So, one of the things, of course, I'm looking at is not just easement lost by numeric numbers, but like the fragmentation. So from an environmental perspective, it would be better to have it closer to the existing road. But, you know, just that sort of discussion needs to happen with hopefully diagrams showing you, we tried this, it didn't work, we tried that, to sort of create the legal chain of first, this is required. Second, this is the most advantageous, environmentally advantageous place to put it. Just to really go through all of that.
And we need MCDOT's confirm
Yes.
it in writing.
I understand, and we had obviously met with DOT, but there wasn't a formal application for them to provide specific.
Sure, but
response
even
to, but
an email or, you know, something that basically says like, per our meeting and discussion, we all agree, you know, just kind of like documenting that consensus would be.
Yeah, I was gonna ask Rebecca.
Something a little bit stronger, the site distance forms like we would normally get.
Village reviewing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need more information though.
Yeah, we'll submit the site distance and all that, the exhibits, but just start with email. Is it the best way to do that?
Yeah.
Sure, okay.
But I know that the clock is running, right? The hearing examiner's got a date, but now we're, you know, several weeks in and haven't been able to start that analysis and that process. So I just, you know, we're not trying to be uncooperative. It's that we need to have this information.
understand, and I'll just own it. I don't know where it got lost in translation because we had all of that documentation. Obviously, we've shared it with you guys in pre-submission meetings. And we described it in the narrative. So this went through multiple steps, went to the board, it went to OZA, then came to you guys, and I haven't gone back to see, was that in the original package of the board and somehow got left out? It's kind of a moot point at this point.
Okay.
But we can quickly get that to you because we have the site distance, we have the road profiles. There's a lot of stuff that obviously kind of is technically part of the record with kind of the board, but I appreciate is not in front of you in terms of even just the minor modifications. We had previously saw it before kind of this, we decided to go the major modification route and do something different. And so we can provide also graphically showing the numerous iterations that this access has gone through to help show all the different avenues we've explored.
Great.
So we can get that in quickly.
So Amy, to be clear, because I want to make sure it was very important what you were saying. We can start with the memo, but we do need the site distance form and a, you know, actual formal from MCDOT saying we support these findings and that's.
We'll send everything to Billy, copy Rebecca, copy Tamika.
Please copy.
Yeah, just the time.
Carlos, yes, sorry, right about Carlos.
Given how time says, I want to make sure you're getting clear direction on what you need.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And I'll point out that Patrick and I did have a meeting with the MDE in the field to discuss this, and there was no expressed environmental concerns from their perspective. Just want to.
We started those conversations early. Amy, that was a helpful recommendation you had given us to kind of start those conversations. So we already had the field visit with them to start the conversations, which was very positive meeting. Thanks, Glenn.
Can I just circle back to the parking garage? I don't think we saw a diagram of that.
So there is, and what was weird, I went and looked on OZA's website. For some reason, it's listed as an exhibit, but it's not hyperlinked. So I'm guessing when they sent you the plans, they somehow didn't send it. So we had two levels of floor plans that were part of the formal record that I think you didn't get.
Okay.
So we'll make sure.
And sorry, just to stay on topic on the garage, is that we also would need to see a bike room. Would the bike room also be within the garage of the site? And where is it in relation to the garage compactor?
I don't have the floor plan pulled up, but I think we showed the bike room on it that you didn't get to see, but and we'll make sure Carlos has your comments about kind of making sure that it has the level of detail you guys are gonna be looking for,
Thank you.
showing how we're meeting the design standard. So we'll make sure that that level of detail is on there too, in addition to the location.
Sorry, I closed this.
Yeah, and just to again to stay on topic on the maneuverability as well. If you can also display how loading will be working from the garage and out of the site in relation to the garbage pickup, that also would be very helpful as well. I'm sorry I'm giving you guys all this homework, but it's just something that we just want to make sure that we are constantly reviewing in relation to this new roadway.
Yeah, I think that those additional floor plans will help kind of show that, but we'll make sure too when we do the resubmission, if there's anything additional to provide.
Great.
Well,
Related to that comment from an urban design perspective, I think that we included this comment, but we are just hoping that you can downplay the garage entrance as you approach the building, whichever access you choose, whichever layout you choose. It's really important to downplay the garage and loading area and instead to really make the main entry the most prominent feature. Building and the access sequence.
Yeah, and I think that's where hopefully the additional kind of renderings and elevations of that directly will help illustrate that, because I think the intention is that that kind of hardscaped plaza with that entrance and kind of how the glass doors are and everything on that facade really is to catch the eye and be the prominent feature along that facade and downplay the garage. But we know we need to get you some more elevations and perspectives so you can really see that, and then have a conversation and get your feedback on it.
Exactly. I think the alignment of the road is what was giving us a little pause. As the road seems, after the bridge, it seems to go directly into the garage loading and have the sort of the off road at a T intersection going to the main entrance. So that alignment, I think, is what gave us a little bit of pause, but obviously we wanted you to sort out things with environment and transportation first. In terms of access and environmental impacts, and then we could have this conversation, just putting a pin on it.
I know you'd made the comment before, which is something we were mindful of too, of like accommodating that without having the two fully compete, you know, in terms of the two entrances as well. So we've been trying to balance both of those objectives.
Like you had mentioned in your comments that you want a follow-up, like what you think the next week?
Yeah, that would be helpful, I think, so that we can start to work through some of these more detailed comments.
We should be able to meet next week at Thursday. Oh, I'm sorry, next week at 11 a.m. So the same time.
Okay.
Next Tuesday.
This is WSSC. This exception didn't came to WSSC as review for the agenda. We were not supposed to review it, but I was looking at this location, and you will need to apply for HPA because this project have HPA in 2018, so already expired and it's different than what was approved in 2018. So if this move forward, you will need to apply for HPA to WSSC, FYI.
List before we write.
No, that was it for today.
Okay, cool. Easy. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
This is item 5, DRC, a map amendment, 495 movers in East County. Troy, go ahead when you're ready.
All right, so yeah, like Neil said, this is a local map amendment for self-storage. The existing zoning is IL with a FAR of 1, and they're coming in for a floating zone, ILF. Increasing the FAR, height is staying the same at 50 feet. So the property itself is existing self-storage. It's currently serving as a kind of a self-drive up facility right now, dated facility, and looks like the applicant is essentially trying to update that facility with a larger, more enclosed building. And so you've seen, I guess, our comments. I think most of it is related to I think one of the major ones was just making sure that the site's tight. So we wanted to make sure the fire access wasn't going to be problematic at that site. But I think that's kind of all our general comments. It's essentially setting up the stage for issues that we may be dealing with at site plan. So the way that we can essentially deal with those things now, the better. So that process in the future will be with less constraints. So I think some of the stuff, there was opportunities for maybe building placement, shifting the building back, maybe putting those amenity, some of that amenity open space that's required in the front. That might also address some parking concerns or opportunities. I know y'all doing a parking waiver. And yeah, I think that kind of overall hits the stuff that I think there was the major issues, at least within the DRC comments. And I'll turn it over to y'all to kind of determine if essentially what other comments you may want to address. So.
Great. Thanks again for the comments on this one. We're excited to be able to reinvest in what is a very dated, aging self-storage facility in a manner that will really support the expansion of 495 Movers, a strong local business, but also help to implement a lot of the county's urban design objectives and kind of reinvest and improve the existing site. With us here today, we have Nate and Tom with 495 Movers, and then Pat and some of our team members are also online. So thanks again for the comments. A lot of them, like you said, Troy, were pretty straightforward. Amenity open space, we saw those comments and we'll look at it further. One thing we just wanted to note in terms of constraints of, I think there was a suggestion to kind of move the building back so that we could get more space at the front to accommodate that amenity open space along the street frontage. Because we need the 10-foot walking path for fire access all the way around the building, it really precludes us from pushing the building further back. And like you noted, it's a very tight site, but appreciate the different options you suggested to explore. So we'll look at that further in terms of what we could do to enhance either the access or the design of the amenity open space and circle back with staff once we've had a chance to look at that further. There was a few other things we just wanted some clarity on. There was a comment regarding the side path. We saw the bicycle master plan recommended a side or separated bike lanes along this stretch of park lawn. And for those separated bike lanes was recommending it to be a side path, but it actually looks like that's on the opposite side of the street. So our frontage improvement was just following complete streets guidelines here. So just wanted clarity that everyone agreed that was. Anything else you wanted to add to that?
No, yeah, so we do have a 6-foot buffer and a 10-foot sidewalk. And then the presumption was that the side path would be on the other side of the street following the bicycle master plan.
I think the bicycle master plan said side to be determined, but that's fine. I think we just need to see a cross section.
Yeah, I was going by the map. But yeah, we can do a cross section.
There was also a comment about a storm drain analysis. I think, Rebecca, this might have been one from DOT. We just want to clarify timing. You weren't looking for that with the rezoning. You're just kind of putting us on notice. You'll need it at site plan or
What's the next stage?
site plan.
Yeah, most probably site plan, right?
If that's what you want, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, currently you're at rezoning.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Because usually we just require everything at the site at this stage as a development. So if you can provide it at this stage, that'd be great. And then when you get the site plan, you won't need to do it again, right? So.
I guess we can prepare, provide it now.
Then you don't need to provide it later.
Site. Would that be reviewed by, since we're at this stage, Rebecca's team then?
Yeah. Somebody, not me.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Site. Sorry.
Forest conservation, just wanted to clarify two things. There was two comments. One was on mitigation trees. We weren't missing.
Right, so they're on your exemption. I was just saying, let's just make sure they're represented on your other plan as well.
What do you mean they're on the exemption?
So you have an approved exemption from forest, from Article 2, and they're shown on that, but you don't have them shown on your the rezoning. So it's just making sure that they're represented and carrying across everything.
Or say there's no specimen trees in the property. There's one in the adjacent property. And there's a significant tree. It's not a specimen though in the back that was noted on the NRI. And that's coming out.
Okay. There were mitigation tree plantings being shown on your exemption.
I read it last night, I think. Is that for the roots and impacts of the offsite tree, maybe?
Oh, no, I misread it. They're proposed shade trees. Never mind.
Okay, and then that I think answers my other question, which you had the comment about keep in mind the terms of the exemption. I think, is that what you were referencing was?
That and all the rest of the terms, just make sure if you have any changes as you go through, make sure you're still meeting those terms of the exemption.
All right, and we had looked at those again yesterday, but, okay. And then the last comment we wanted to chat with everyone about was the driveway alignment. We'd seen DOT's request for the driveway to be aligned with the entrance across the street, and certainly understand this is a goal, obviously, of many projects. We didn't think that made sense here for a couple of reasons. We wanted to point out and then have a conversation about it. One is we're already obviously improving the situation. We're taking what are 2 curb cuts today, consolidating that into 1 to minimize the potential conflicts. This site is a very low trip generator. And the width of that roadway, which is a 4-lane road, and kind of also the width of the driveway across the street, we felt like here where you really want those aligned so that the 2 driveways kind of communicate with one another, given the width of the roadway, even if they were directly aligned, that wouldn't really occur here. And then additionally, if we were to locate it in the center of the site, it really impacts our ability from an urban design perspective to provide kind of like any activating uses with the building, because you're now bifurcating the building straight down the center and you kind of have small slivers on either side versus having the ability to provide what we're currently proposing in terms of like an office activating use on that ground floor. Pat, anything else I'm missing as to kind of?
The only thing we noticed was we did perform a site distance analysis, and it is looking up on the page is going downhill, and we lost it after there was 10 feet of fluff. So presumably the street is sloping at the same gradient, so that wouldn't change, but we need to retest that. So if we move it up on the page, there's a chance the site distance could change, but we'll have to retest it.
Just write something up about it. The other thing I had asked for was an operational analysis, because it sounds like this is a little bit different than a normal self-storage.
Yeah.
And so I was looking for more detailed information to explain how it's going to operate and everything.
Yeah.
So I was looking for that information.
So for operations, we can provide that. I think what it will basically kind of give is maybe the kind of the worst case, because it'll fluctuate depending on the day, but at, the kind of peak use, they probably have like 5 moving teams accessing the site for any given day. There's maybe some days that no moving teams are having moves coming into the site that day.
Right, but it's
So we
just
can
for
explain
them. It's not for anybody else, right?
So the storage facility in the initial, as they kind of have a lease up, there'll be a portion of it that will be open to the general public. And then eventually the goal is the entire building will be used exclusively by 495 movers.
So we'll want to see how you coordinate, because obviously there's not 5 places for 5 trucks to sit there.
Right.
What size of the trucks? How do you do, like, just the operation?
Some of the details about and how they'll control the timing of
Yeah.
the trucks coming.
Yeah, so they're not blocking the street.
And what's the best, do you want that as a separate like letter or like narrative?
Yeah, I mean, you can
Does
provide that in a separate narrative. That's
Okay.
It makes sense to like provide some type of loading circulation plan now, since it seems like it's just not your typical pickup.
Yeah, I mean, they can provide some loading, like
truck turning, but we also want to, like, where do the trucks just park in those, you have 3 loading spaces? Are they just gonna sit there? Are they gonna go into the building? You know, like, just a little bit more information about how it works.
Okay.
Sure.
We'll just combine that then also with the information about the site location in terms of the curb cut. Okay, great. Anything else? Doug?
Yeah. Hi, this is Carlos Pazmina from the Transportation Plan Division. I noticed that you guys didn't submit any cross sections for the site. I did see the cross sections for the bioretention. Your next submissions, could you please provide the full right of way, the sidewalk, and just the overall layout of the site? Thanks.
Yes, we will. That's all we wanted to discuss today.
So we don't need a follow-up meeting, right?
I don't think so.
Ah,
This
okay,
one.
good.
Yeah.
This sounds good to me. I just, no need to meet, we don't need to. Let's get my ducks in a row.
When do you need letters by?
Just work on a timeline. I know this one had like a, what's the, I guess the hearing day, I think it was moving at a faster track than 123 days. But I'll circle back to timeline.
If you can just send an invite for the family.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.